Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Harry Huberti, and I lead our Insurer Executive Research function here at Aite Novarica Group. I'm joined today by Martina Conlon, who leads our P&C insurance practice, as well as John Ketty, one of our senior principals on the life annuity benefits side. John and Martina, thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
Great to join you.
And our topic for today is Emerging Technology in Insurance 2023. This is one of our annual flagship reports, which relies on our Insurance Technology Research Council for insurers to tell us what they're doing with emerging technologies, what they're interested in, and what they plan to pilot. So I'm told by our web team that we have more than 100 attendees at this point. So without further ado, we'll jump right into the preliminary matter here. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Aite Novarica Group is a research and advisory firm that provides mission-critical insights on technology, regulations, markets, and operations to hundreds of banks, insurers, payments providers, and investment firms. We are coming out of the harmonious merger of Aite Group as well as Novarica, and most of our insurance practice is Heritage Novarica employees. Who have traditionally focused on questions of technology for the insurance vertical. We can move on to the next slide. A quick antitrust statement here, as we do before all of our webinars and large meetings. The purpose of this gathering is not to collude or price fix or discuss matters of that nature, but rather to share insights and information about the industry. So moving on. All right, for our agenda today, I'll have a quick overview on introduction and logistics. Then we'll cover emerging technology in insurance at an overview level, just kind of defining the category and talking about what the focus for this report is. Then we'll move into the topics themselves. The first section will include some of the more established technologies or the ones that are proving themselves out in insurance, things like AI, cloud computing, and so forth, that a lot of insurers are beginning to deploy or actively piloting. And then we'll wrap up the session with a few technologies that are new to this year's report, including streaming data, cloud access security brokers, and zero trust network access. And then at the end, we'll have some concluding thoughts about emerging technology in insurance and what insurers should keep in mind as they pilot and deploy emerging technologies within their organization. Next slide, please. All right, so jumping into the introduction and logistics here. We have a full house today. Because of the size of this crowd, we might be more limited in our ability to run this webinar as a true town hall style, but you'll see in your webinar controls that you do have the ability to use the chat function to ask questions. We have a top tier web team running the webinar behind the scenes. They'll be able to see those questions and they'll pass them along to John and to Martina and to me. And we can pause the discussion to read those questions and answer them in line as we need to. So please don't be shy. We'd like to address audience questions as much as we can while maintaining the overall flow. Due to the size of the crowd, we won't put anybody on the spotlight to speak to the crowd directly, but do feel free to ask questions as they come up. We do have a lot to cover, but the slides and webinar recording will be made available after the session today. So if we don't get to everything on the agenda, you'll still have access to all that information. And Martina, John, and I, along with the rest of Aite Novarica Group's expert senior insurance team, are available to our advisory clients for further discussion about this report or any other topics that you may have interested in. A second brief note before we get started, we are currently accepting applications or submissions for our 12th annual Insurance Technology Impact Awards program. They are open through March 31st, 2023. If you're not familiar with this program, it's a peer juried awards program where the winners are selected anonymously by vote of our Insurance Technology Research Council, which is composed of high-level technology executives at insurance companies, typically CIOs or similar, very much peers selecting peers. These awards are designed to recognize successful insurance technology projects in the core digital data and IT practice areas, and each submission is featured with a single-page case study in our annual case study compendium reports, which are published alongside the announcement of the winners in June. Those submissions are due in 2 weeks, but please don't let that put you off. It's essentially a short project description. There are 8 or 9 sections, which are 50 to 100 words each. So we strive for it to not be onerous, very much the sort of thing that can be executed by an insurance team in 2 weeks. And for solution providers on the call, we do ask that the submissions come from insurers, but you're welcome to talk to your clients about successful projects that you've collaborated on, and then also collaborate with the submission, working on that with your insurer partners. All right. And with that, let's get started on the webinar material for today with emerging technology in insurance. So emerging technology can cover a range of technologies that are either on the leading edge within the insurance space or are in the process of being established and proven out. Generally speaking, these are more horizontal in nature, so they could have applications across a number of industries. And so within insurance, it's sometimes a case of identifying the best use cases, or once those use cases have been identified, establishing that that particular technology solves the problem better or more cost effectively than other technologies that already exist in the area. We assess the data for this study via that Insurance Technology Research Council, and they tell us whether the insurers that they work at are interested in that technology, but don't have any current plans to engage with it, whether they are currently piloting the technology or planning to pilot it in the future, whether they've deployed that technology, and within that sphere, those who have deployed it and positively measured the ROI, those who have deployed it and generally recognize that the technology has provided value, and those who have deployed it but still say that the value is unclear from their perspective. And then insurers can also tell us that they don't feel the technology applies to them in particular, or that they don't have any plans to engage with it at this time. These technologies tend to follow kind of a characteristic adoption curve. You'll see the early innovators pilot a technology, and then if it's successful, it will generally move into production at low levels. And then we'll see a several-year period of active pilot activity, generally in the 15 to 25% range. That happens when sort of fast followers begin to understand that the use case for a technology is established and pilot it on their own. Or when those pilots move into production, more cautious insurers will follow on their tail. So it's not uncommon for a technology that is experiencing success to be piloted at a 15, 20% rate year over year over year. Finally, there are a few technologies that have either been retired from this report or that we don't feel quite fit into the emerging technology category. Those are things like APIs and mobile, which are kind of approaching ubiquity, or in API's case, kind of the consensus best practice for flexible integration. And then things like predictive analytics and third-party data have been surveyed in prior editions of this report, but we feel that because those are very broad categories, they don't fit as well into the particular emerging technologies for this report. And on the next slide, we'll see just a list of the technologies that we've covered.